Are the Ten Commandments even in the Bible? No, no, nowhere in the Bible does it say 10 commandments. Doesn't say that. Just doesn't say that. And how did we get the idea that there are 10 commandments, that there are supposed to be imperatives on your life? Where did that idea come from? And where were the Ten Commandments even supposedly given to Moses in this story? Was it Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb? Because the Bible says both of those places. Hmm. And what does it even have to do with us today? What does it have to do with ancient Egypt? What does it have to do with you if you're a deconstructing Christian, if you're a current Christian, if you are XJW like myself? What does it have to do with anything? And how is it that we can free how can we free ourselves from mental slavery, namely religion that has kept people in bondage for thousands of years? How can we free ourselves from that? That's what we're talking about tonight on this episode of The Real God is Not in the Bible. The Bible's not about God. The Bible's not from God. The Bible's not inspired by God. The Bible's not about God. I will tell you in a couple of sentences what the Bible is about. The first part of the Bible, also known as the Hebrew Bible, or as we used to call it in the JW world, we used to call it the Hebrew scriptures versus the Greek scriptures. Some people call it the Old Testament versus the New Testament. Some people call it the Hebrew Bible. Well, the Hebrew Bible, that is an origin story created by an emerging group of people, a people group emerging from Canaan. It's their origin story, it has nothing to do with the rest of the world. They made up an origin story for themselves and has nothing to do with the rest of us. That origin story was based on stories, older stories in the Mesopotamian zeitgeist, which include the Anunnaki. So you have retelling of some Anunnaki stories. That's what you have in there because they were drawing from the material, the literature that they had at hand in creating their origin story. And that's all good. Anyone can create their origin story. You can make up a story right now and call it your origin story. Just understand that there was no such person as Moses. Never existed. He's a made up character, probably based on Sargon of Akkad. Never existed. Just understand that this story that has been concocted and force fed to us as if it were the divine revelations of truth straight from God's mouth. No, 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 no. And I'm not mad about that because I love the Bible. I'm not here to bash the Bible. I'm not here to bash any religion. I love the Bible. I read the Bible. I enjoy the Bible. I study the Bible. I research the Bible. I just know the Bible's not from God. It's a collection of literature. I call it humanity's library. Let's get into it. The Ten Commandments. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're brand new here, smash up the likes. You know how we say around here, smash that like button, baby, and smash the shares. And of course, subscribe. Family, subscribe. We're going to 100,000 subscribers immediately. Subscribe, subscribe, because I know that a lot of you wonderful beings watch me and don't subscribe. It's just a tap of a button for you. Tap the button. Queen Bee, how you loving? How you loving? Oh my goodness, it's so good seeing all of y'all. So let's get into it about these 10 commandments. I am prepared for you, as I am every Wednesday. We are here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we love talking about this topic. This series that we are in called The Real God is Not in the Bible. And what is it really about? It's about the Anunnaki. It's about ancient mysteries. It's about cult secrets. It's about metaphysics. It's about Egyptian mysteries. It's about the Bible. It's about deconstructing from Christianity. It's about magic. It's about owning your power. It's about sovereignty. It's about all those things. Like, what's more important than all those things? Your own sovereignty, your own spirituality, your own path. Wow. And it's really to free us from being clamped down mentally by religion. Let the shackles go. Let the shackles go. Most of all, this series is all about ending war. We are still fighting in the Middle East over holy books. We are still fighting with each other over books. My God is better than yours, and my holy book is better than yours. We are still doing that. It's time we graduated. That we're ready to graduate. We're ready to ascend. We're ready to remember our oneness with all. Peace among all. That's what we're here for. All right, let's talk about the Ten Commandments. Nowhere in the original Hebrew Bible are these 10 referred to as the Ten Commandments. They are called Aseret Ha-Devarim. I hope I'm saying that right. If I butchered that, I really apologize to our Hebrew brothers and sisters. Or the 10 sayings or words in the Hebrew Bible, they're called the 10 sayings or words. So, where do we get the 10 Commandments? I'll tell you that in a moment. The actual 10 Commandments do not exist anywhere on the planet. This is completely fictional. It is completely made up by human beings. This is an origin story, as I mentioned before, of a people group who emerged from Canaan and whose hero is Moses. Moses is their hero. Moses never existed. This is a mythology. Even according to the story, if you want to stick to the story, I understand that. If you want to stick to the story that Moses existed, hey, everybody gets to think exactly what they want to think. I'm not here to tell you what to think, baby. That's not my job. My job is to share, to inspire, to uplift, to encourage, to teach. That's my job. Now, what you do with it, completely up to you. Completely up to you. Even if you follow the traditional story says that the Ten Commandments were kept in the Ark of the Covenant in Solomon's temple, the actual tablets that God wrote on. And that temple was destroyed, according to history, that temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. So, and the Ark of the Covenant hasn't been seen since. So of course, there are stories that the Ark of the Covenant is in Ethiopia. Quite possible. I don't know. I don't even view the Ark of the Covenant as a religious artifact. The Ark of the Covenant, the way it is described in the Bible, is a heavy duty killing machine. It's some kind of supercharged, electrifying. It electrocuted somebody in the Bible. So, if the stories that we read about the Ark of the Covenant have any validity, that thing was a dangerous, absolutely dangerous piece of heavy equipment. So it depends on what you believe about the Ark of the Covenant. But we don't have it. Now, purportedly, it's in Ethiopia. I don't know. I haven't laid my peepers on it. So I cannot tell you that it's in Ethiopia. I've heard that from many people that it's in Ethiopia. And I've heard that the people that guard it in Ethiopia usually go blind because the radiation coming off this thing is off the charts, which would match the Bible story. So I don't know where the Ark of the Covenant is. I can tell you that the Ark of the Covenant has been not been seen in a very long time, and they traced it and they traced it and they traced it, and it looked like it had moved around a few different places, but no one could ever find it conclusively, proven with evidence. Like the person walked in and took a picture of the Ark of the Covenant. Also, inside the Ark of the Covenant were the two tablets, supposedly the two tablets that God wrote on. So even if you go according to the traditional story, we still don't have the original 10 because they disappeared with the Ark of the Covenant. Now, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Here's my first question about the 10 Commandments. You're Moses. You go up on Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb, whichever mountain you want it to be. The Bible gives both. I'll tell you the explanation for that in a moment. You go up on the mountaintop and you meet God Himself. Now, I happen to think that God is not a him or her, that the infinite source, this is just my own experience of God. Everyone has their own experience of the infinite source. It's not a person to me. It's infinite source energy. It is consciousness, infinitely wise, infinitely intelligence from which we all spring. Everything springs from this infinite consciousness. That's my experience of the all. And it's one. It's not many. It's one. and we all come from it. And so everyone has to have their own experience of the divine. What is it? Or maybe you're an atheist, or maybe you're agnostic. You don't have any belief in God, which is a-okay with me. I like atheists, they're critical thinkers. And also, some people are agnostic, they just don't know. Or you may be a deconstructing Christian where you used to be a believer and now you're looking at us with a side eye, the things they told us. It's got the side eye right now. So, wherever you may be in your spiritual journey, think about this. You are on the top of a mountain. You are talking to God Almighty, like the God, like capital G, like creator of the whole everything. And this God gives you the sayings on two tablets. Charlton Heston, Moses up on the mountain. And you come down from that mountain and you see that your people, these Israelites, they have gone buck wild while you were up on the mountain. They went buck wild because you were gone for 40 days, blinded by the light. Yeah, it came down, your face was shining, your countenance was so bright, they had to put a veil over you. Now, I believe some of that is a holdover from Anunnaki stories where radiation. I do believe that because he was talking to Yahweh, one of the Anunnaki on the side of the mountain, and his glory passed by. What is his glory? Or his kavod. What is his kavod? A big, heavy object. His machine, his flying machine that he said, I can show you it, but I have to cover you in the mountain. Anyway, we're not talking about the Anunnaki right now. Right now, we're talking about the Ten Commandments. So you get the Ten Commandments, you come down and you see that your people are going buck wild. And when you get down there, you get so enraged that you hurl the Ten Commandments down that God just wrote on with God's own finger, and you hurl them down on the ground and crash them to pieces. Have you ever found that story to be suspect, or was I the only one? Tell me. But God wrote them, Moses, with God's finger. And you're man, I would have been holding them things like they were the last things on planet Earth, and I would have told all of y'all can be crazy as you want, but I got the word right here, and this is gonna be it for me. Y'all can be as crazy as you want to out here in this wilderness, Israelites. You get so enraged that you hurl down the tablets that God itself wrote on. Did that part of the story ever make sense to you? Okay, I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering if was I the only one questioning all these incredible Bible stories. I mean, I love these stories. I love these stories just as much as the next person. I love these stories. Was anyone else questioning these stories? Okay, let's continue. So, what we know so far is they weren't called the Ten Commandments; they were called the Ten Sayings. Moses is a completely contrived character. There's no such person as Moses. There is nothing outside of the Bible that attests to any person named Moses. He never existed. The Ten Commandments, we don't know what they said because we don't know where they are because they were destroyed. Even if we believe the story that they were written on the tablets, which I myself do not, even if you believe that story, and even if you say, yes, they were in the Ark of the Covenant, all good, well, they still took that anyway. So we still don't have the Ten Commandments. So we don't know what they said. We have to go on what people said they said. Can you see that there's already a problem here? Let's continue. Let's continue. So, they were never called the Ten Commandments in the Bible, and they're gone. Now, there are three different versions of the Ten Commandments. Did y'all know that there are three different versions of the Ten Commandments? So, I learned this from the Bible scholar Bart Ehrman. Dr. Bart Ehrman said, well, when you say the Ten Commandments, it depends on which Ten Commandments you're talking about. I was like, what do you mean? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's husband or wife or babies or children or house. What are you talking about? Three versions of the Ten Commandments. What? Yeah, it's three different versions of the Ten Commandments. Stop it. Okay. Here are the three different versions of the Ten, but they're not commandments, they're sayings. 10 sayings. Exodus 22 through 17, Exodus 34, 14 to 26, and Deuteronomy 5, 16 to 18. Let's look at the first two. Let's look at Exodus 20 and let's look at Exodus 34 because Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5, they're very similar, although they're not identical. And did you know that the Catholic Church and the Jewish people and the Protestant Christian people and the Orthodox Christian people all have different versions of the Ten Commandments? What? I thought these were quote unquote set in stone, pardon the pun. Let's look at Exodus chapter 20. Let's go there first. Exodus chapter 20. This is probably the 10 commandments that you are used to. Exodus chapter 20, verse 2 through 17, the 10 commandments. Let's read it from the NIV. I think you recognize that I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. You shall have no other gods before me. Doesn't say there's no other gods. It says you shall have no other gods before me. I'm the head honcho God of all the gods. There's plenty of gods in the Bible. The Bible is not monogamous. Let me say that again. The Bible is not monotheistic. You shall not make for yourself an image. Okay, so you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make an image. You shall not misuse the name of Lord. Okay, not use the name of the Lord in vain. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Okay, remember the Sabbath. Honor your father and your mother. That's number 5. Number 6, don't murder. Number 7, no adultery. Number 8, don't steal. Number 9, don't give false testimony against your neighbor. Number 10, don't covet. Okay, that sounds about right. But now if we go to Exodus 34, it's different. Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I will write on them the words that were on the first tablet which you broke. The one of the Bible scholars said that the scribe had to put this in here to match it with another part of the Bible where it says Moses broke the tablets. Anyway, in this version of the story, he's on Mount Sinai, but in another version of the story, he's on Mount Horeb. I'll show you that difference in a moment. But right now, let's look and see what these are. 10 Commandments. All right. Then the Lord said, let's see. Okay. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, it starts in verse. Here it is. Do not worship any other God, for the Lord whose name is jealous is a jealous God. We know that from church. Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land, for when they prostitute themselves to their gods and sacrifice to them, they will invite you and will eat their sacrifices. And when you choose some of their daughters as wives for your sons, and those daughters prostitute themselves to their gods, they will lead your sons to do the same. This don't sound like the same one as before. Okay, so we got okay, don't marry, intermarry, don't make idols. Celebrate the festival unleavened bread. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. This other one didn't say nothing about that. For 7 days, eat bread made without yeast, as I commanded you. Do this at the appointed time in the month of Aviv, for in that month you came out of Egypt. Well, that's weird. This one is saying celebrate the Passover or a festival of unleavened bread. The other one is saying celebrate the Sabbath. Okay, next one, 5. The first offspring of every womb belongs to me, including all the firstborn males of your livestock, whether from herd or flock. Redeem the firstborn donkey with a lamb, but if you do not redeem it, break its neck. Redeem all your firstborns. No one is to appear before me empty-handed. Okay, it didn't say nothing about the firstborns in the other one. Okay, let's see if we can get back on the matching part. Okay, we're back to matching again. 6 days you shall labor, but on the 7th day you shall rest. Even during the plowing season and harvest you must rest. Okay, so that commandment, that's in the other one. The Sabbath. Celebrate the festival of weeks with the first fruits of the wheat harvest and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year. Festival of weeks. This 10 commandment sounds like they want you to do a lot of observances and festivals and remembrances and all that. The other one didn't say these things. Okay. 3 times a year, all your men are to appear before the sovereign Lord, the God of Israel. I will drive out nations before you and enlarge your territory. No one will covet your land. And when you go up 3 times each year to appear before me, so you got to go 3 times a year. Okay, we got to do all that. Now, The other 10 commandments didn't say that. Okay. Do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast, and do not let any of the sacrifice from the Passover festival remain until morning. Okay, don't offer the blood of any sacrifice to me. Okay, bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord your God. Bring the best of the first fruits of your soil to the house of the Lord the God. It didn't say anything about that in other testimony, other 10 commandments. Okay, and then last one, number 10, do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. So if you want to know, well, which 10 commandments are we talking about? You pick one. We have three versions of the. This is from Bible scholars. Bart Ehrman, Bible scholar, one of the preeminent Bible scholars on the planet, was the one that opened my eyes to this. I was like, wait a minute, no, can't be. Can't be. We have three versions of the. We would have known that if we were reading the book, wouldn't we? We would have known that this 10 commandments looks nothing like the other 10 commandments. Nothing like it. Nothing like two different 10 commandments. And they weren't even called commandments. They were called sayings. They were called words. And the only reason I read you these two is because Exodus and Deuteronomy, Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5 are similar, yet not identical. But Exodus 20 and Exodus 34, two different sets of 10 commandments. They have a little bit of overlap, like, I'm God, I'm first. And yeah, the Sabbath. The rest of the stuff, we can't even line them up. We can't even match them up. That's why when they were going through the Bible, they had to pick, okay, which 10 commandments are we going to go with? All right. Now, in one version of the story, Moses receives these 10 sayings at Mount Sinai. That's in Exodus 19 and Exodus 31. I'm going to tell you about J, P, E, and D in a moment. In another version of the story, he receives them at Mount Horeb, or the mountain of God. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 9, and chapter 18. So it's mentioned in the Hebrew Bible 14 times Mount Horeb and 20 times Mount Sinai. Now let's go to church. What were you told? Let's come off screen share for a second. And please tell me, what were you told about the 10 commandments? Where did Moses receive the 10 commandments? I was told on Mount Sinai. What were y'all told? I don't know what they were teaching in all these different churches. And what version did you get? I got the version. I got the first one in Exodus 20. I didn't get the other version. I didn't even know the other version existed until the Bible scholars told me. What version did you get? Beloveds, I am so confused, and yet the church is so quick to say the Bible doesn't contradict itself. They love to say that. They love to say that. It's a grand lie, because we can tell you many places where the Bible absolutely contradicts itself. Matter of fact, Bible scholars who study the Bible say that the Bible is actually arguing with itself. Not only does it contradict itself, it's arguing different points of view within itself. Mount Sinai, that's what you were told out there, Grace? That's what I was told too. I was told, unique hair, organics hair care. You were told Mount Sinai too. Okay. Oh, Althea Grace, the burning bush. Okay. Mount Sinai, and I got the first one. Boom. So you got Mount Sinai, and you got the first version of the 10 Commandments. Okay, now let me ask y'all another question. What were y'all told was Moses' father-in-law's name? Remember, Moses married, quote unquote, a Midianite woman named Zipporah. What were you told is her father's name? What's Moses' father-in-law's name? Anybody know about that? Anybody know about that? What is Moses' father-in-law? What were you told is his name? I'll tell you what I was told. Well, what were y'all told? Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. What were you told was Moses' father-in-law's name? And were you told that Moses and Aaron were brothers? That's what I was told. That's not so. That's what I was told. I was told that Moses and Aaron were brothers. Okay, let's go and see Moses' father-in-law. Now I'm going somewhere with this 10 Commandments while we're doing this background. Jethro, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. They told us his name was Jethro. That is exactly right. Oh, y'all are on it. Ooh, Oh, y'all are Bible people. Yes, yes. We were listening in church. We were paying attention. Well, let's see. Yep. Okay. Let's see. This is yet another shocker from the Bible that, it's right there when we read it. It's right there when we read it, which is quite shocking to me. It was here all along. Who is Moses' father in law? Two times they say his name was Reuel, and nine times they say his name was Jethro. In Exodus chapter 2, verse 18, they say his name was Reuel. In Exodus chapter 3 and other instances, they say his name was Jethro. It's two different names for Moses' father. Just like there's two different places where Moses receives the Ten Commandments, on Mount Sinai or out on Mount Horeb. Just like there's two different, really three different versions of the Ten Commandments. Why so many versions? Why so many parts of the story? Well, this is what they did. In the story that we received, which is what I got, Moses' father in law is Jethro, and Moses receives the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. So they took parts of both of the story and they used that in church. And the rest of it, they just was like knowing that no one was going to read it. Please give a review. Please leave a review. Please leave a review on The Real God Is Not in the Bible. Thank y'all for keeping this book on the bestseller list. Members, you have a copy. We'll come back to that in a moment. So the Ten Commandments. How did they get to be called the Ten Commandments? But let me close the loop with Moses. How is it that there's these different versions? How is it that there are these different versions? Well, for that, let's go inside my book, The Real God Is Not in the Bible, that many of you already have a copy of. If you don't have a copy of it, please buy the ebook. And if you do have the ebook, or if you're waiting for the paperback or the hardcover, it will be coming out on Kickstarter later this year. Yay! The documentary hypothesis. So now let's break this down for a minute. When Bible scholars read, let me come on screen share for a second. When Bible scholars read the Hebrew Bible, it's clear that there are different voices. We don't get that because it's been translated into English and it sounds like one continuous story. Well, when you read it in the original language, it doesn't sound like one continuous story. You know what it looks like? It looks like a little bit of Shakespeare with a little bit of Jay-Z rap, with a little bit of Harry Potter, with a little bit of Old English, all mixed together. So if you picked up a book and part of it read like Jay-Z's rap, and part of it read like Shakespeare, and part of it read like Harry Potter novel, and part of it read like Old English, medieval English, even older than Shakespeare, like King James Version. Well, that's around the same time as Shakespeare. Let's say it's even older than that. You would know that this whole thing doesn't go together and that different parts came from different places. We would know that if we could read the original Hebrew. We can't read the original Hebrew. So that's how we don't know. We're missing a huge part of the puzzle because we can't read the originals. So because we can't read the originals, we don't understand that it's different voices in the originals. We don't understand that that it's made up of different stories. Okay? All right. Part Jay-Z, part it sounds different. Like you're reading Shakespeare and all of a sudden it turns into modern English. Then you're reading some more and all of a sudden it turns into a Jay-Z rap song. And then you're reading some more and all of a sudden it turns into a country western. You would know, okay, something's up with this. This came from different places. That's what the documentary hypothesis is. See, I have to explain this. in ways that I would understand because I'm a layperson. People call me a scholar and they call me Dr. Valerie all the time. But here's the truth: if you cannot explain something in simple terms, you don't understand it yourself, baby. So I always seek to explain it in simple terms. So Bible scholars came up with a reason why is all these different voices and different versions of the same story is in the Hebrew. Why? Because it came from four different places, and they call those four different places J, P, D, and E. J for the I'll give you the exact. Let me give you the exact breakdown of the documentary hypothesis. So a lot of scholars use this. I won't say all the scholars agree with this. Yeah, it's a working hypothesis that a lot of them use. And so this just explains why there are different voices in the Pentateuch, especially the first five books of the Bible. The J is the Yahwist source. They think that this current Hebrew Bible that we have now was pulling on four different sources when the Bible writers were putting it all together, the scribes. The Elohist source. The D is the Deuteronomist source, and the P is the priestly source. So whenever the P writers are writing all the P stuff, it's very ceremonial. It's like the second version of the Ten Commandments that we got. And they view Aaron, the priestly source, they did not say that Aaron was Moses' brother. They felt like Aaron was even sort of better than Moses. And the priestly source, someone that's writing in there, actually claims that Aaron is like their distant ancestor. So the priestly source will always make Aaron sound like the good guy. So if you're wondering why there are different voices in the Bible, you're absolutely right, because there are different voices in the Bible. And this is how scholars segment it out. Now, this is not for the New Testament. This is only for the Hebrew Bible. Specifically, they're talking about, I'm pretty sure they're only talking about the Pentateuch, which is the first five books of the Bible. Pent meaning five, right? The Pentateuch. Supposedly all written by Moses. And we know Moses did not write the first five books of the Bible. That's what they told us. Let's go further. So, how did we get to, because we want to talk about these shocking origins of the Ten Commandments, like how did they lie about things that sounded like they would help humanity? I mean, they didn't have to lie about this part. They really didn't. Here's the deal. Here is the process by which these 10 sayings, as you see, there's one set of 10 sayings over here, there's another 10 sayings over there, these different, how they turned into commandments that everyone must follow, that they turned into somehow imperatives for all of us. How did that happen? That's what I wanted to know. Because in the original Hebrew, they just started off as 10 words, 10 sayings, not commandments. Then, when the Hebrew was translated into Greek, that's the Septuagint. I talk about that in the book. So if you have the book, you see that on the side here in this section of the book, I tell you I'm still adding more to the book. So when it comes out on paperback and hardcover, you will have the completed version. And also, when you buy it on ebook, you'll be getting the updated versions also. So even if you buy it now, you will still get the updated versions. Here I have included what the Septuagint is, which is very, very important for us to know the Septuagint. So when the Hebrew Bible was translated from Hebrew into Greek for the Greek Septuagint, the 10 words or the 10 sayings became the Decalogia. Logos, you recognize that meaning word, where we get the word Decalogue. It just means 10 words. So the Greek translation was still true to what is said in the Hebrew. It's just 10 words. When the Christians came later on, I'll tell you is specifically which Christians in the Latin tradition began to refer and reframe these 10 commandments, to reframe the 10 words as commandments, like you have to do them. And then the Latin Vulgate, which came in the fourth century, started to, that's a translation again from the Greek into Latin. That's where it amped up to commandments. Then later Bible translations like the Wycliffe Bible, 1382, and our friend King James, that I love to have turn over in his grave for all of the meanness he did with witches, 1611, they now have in it the 10 Commandments. So who are these? Who are the people that started talking like we should make these commandments? Who are they? Church fathers. Church fathers. Wow, we can certainly trace a lot back to these quote unquote church fathers sitting around making up shit for people to do, trying to tell people how to live their lives. And what gave them the purview over other people's lives? Nothing. They themselves proclaimed themselves the guardians over other people's lives, these Latin church fathers and other church fathers. It was many church fathers, but there were four Latin church fathers. Church fathers. Which church fathers? I'll tell you exactly which ones. Origen of Alexandria. He is really influential on Christianity. He lived between 185 and 253 CE. So he's about maybe 150 years after Jesus. And he wrote homilies on Exodus and commentary on Romans. He interprets the Decalogue as universal divine commandments. So he's telling people, okay, it was a Decalogue, it was 10 words, but now we need to amp the ante. We need to make these commandments, and we need to have them binding on all humanity, not just Israel. Okay, Origin. Then who else? Augustine. Now, you've heard me talk about Augustine quite a bit in some of his crazy ideas. Remember, Augustine was the one that came up with original sin. Augustine was also influential in perpetrating the lie of hellfire, just a person. I think he also was one of the ones that said the priests need to be celibate, because Augustine was this kind of person that said we must have original sin because I'm so horny and I can't get thoughts of sex out of my mind. So it must mean that there's something wrong with all of us. No, boo, it wasn't all of us. You take responsibility, Augustine. They made him a saint. He lived between 354 and 430, so he's about 300 and some years after Christ. So he's talking about these 10 words, they need to be commandments. Everybody needs to follow these 10. Okay, who's the third one? Irenaeus. Irenaeus lived between 125 and 202, and he was also highly influential. He wrote against heresies because Irenaeus, oh, I didn't put a right picture of Irenaeus up here. I got to get Irenaeus' picture. Irenaeus was the one who wrote against heresies, and he was coming against all of the Gnostics. He didn't like them. Oh, no, 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 no. Let's go to Irenaeus so we can get his true picture. Irenaeus of Lyons. Here we go, and just pick one, whatever one of these pictures suits your fancy. Irenaeus of Lyons. So you have a move of church fathers and church thought and very vocal men who want to say that they want to prop up this story of how Christianity is taking shape. They want to write the dogma. They want to write doctrine. And they are writing it. They don't just want to, they are writing it. And they're writing a lot. And they're sending their letters all over the known, Christian Latin world. And they're starting to catch on. These ideas are starting to catch on. So nowhere in the Bible does it say 10 commandments. It says 10 words, 10 sayings. Later on, these church fathers took it upon themselves to try to dictate to you how you're going to live your life by amping them up and telling them they're commands, they're divine imperatives. They are for everyone, not just the Israelites, which is not true. And they are inflicting now, we're inflicting this on everyone. We're inflicting this on everyone. Everyone, everyone, everyone. Because these are super controlling dudes. These are super controlling dudes. These are some of these church fathers, when I read things that they write, they sound very insecure. Very insecure. They sound like they want to control. They sound like control mongers, power mongers. They sound power hungry. They want to make everybody do what they want them to do. Like, chill, dudes. I don't know if they had in their available arsenal to smoke some weed, these would have been some good candidates to chill. You need some cannabis because you are just way up here and we need you to bring it down about 10 notches. About 10 notches. We need you to bring it down. Okay. So here's the timeline. And when I released the book, the paperback and the hardcover on Kickstarter, I'm going to have some goodies along with it, some charts that I'm having made, some art that I'm having made. So we're going to release a lot of goodies with it too. So that's fun. That's going to be fun. So here, this gives you an idea of the development and the progression by which these 10 words that don't even agree, 10 words in one place, 10 words that are different in another place, kind of similar, not the same by any means, how they got elevated to be commandments for the whole world. So we see Hebrew Bible, then we see the Greek Septuagint, then we see the Latin Vulgate. The Latin Vulgate was created by St. Jerome, and he did this Latin Vulgate, this Latin version of the Bible, in very much to agree with Rome and church orthodoxy. So already you're starting to see with the Latin Vulgate that the Bible is being tainted by the dogma of the Orthodox Church. Then you have some of the church fathers that turn them into commands because they want to control every area of your life. Then in the medieval period, you have the Latin become the commandments. So they're the commands, they're the precepts of God. But then in medieval times, the preachers there, the ones that were yelling and railing against the witches, they turn them into 10 commandments. And then in the English Bibles, by the time we get to 1382, to the Wycliffe Bible and the King James Version of the Bible in 1611, now we're at the 10 commandments. These are moral laws. They're coming into your bedroom. In Judaism, rabbinic and modern Judaism, there's still the 10 sayings. They're not called, if you ask Jewish people about this, Jewish people don't call them 10 commandments. That's our crazy Christian creation. Now, the Jewish people, you would think that they would know because this is their book. I keep telling you, Christians they appropriated the Hebrew Bible and appended it to what they were going to create. Why? Why did you have to go and take someone else's book and append it to our book? You didn't have to do that. As a matter of fact, there was a big conversation about whether we should do that. But like, this is not a good idea because the God that Jesus is talking about doesn't sound like this God from the Hebrew Bible. This God is petty, he's jealous, he's mean, he's killing people, he's smoking people, he's throwing fire from heaven. We don't like this God. But the one Jesus is talking about is all loving. And the Father are one. He's talking all love and oneness. And Jesus is even making fun of the Bible, the Hebrew Bible God on some points. These can't be the same God. And there was discussion back and forth and when they were compiling the Bible between people, because the Bible is a people book, it's a human book. Got nothing to do with God. Where was God when all of this was going on? The humans were doing all this. Where's God in any of this? The humans are doing it. The humans are doing it. The humans are doing it. So before we go into the Egyptian influence, because I got to talk about Egypt before we wrap up, I got to talk about Egypt. It's vital to understand the distinction between truth and mythology. Now, mythology doesn't mean that it's a lie. Mythology means that there's a truth encoded in the story. Mythology means that there is something that you can learn from it, even though the story itself is not factual. That's what the Hebrew Bible is. That's what Moses is. Moses is not attested to anywhere outside the Hebrew Bible. He didn't exist. He's not a real person. It's very hard for a lot of Christians to even sink their teeth into that one because we just love Moses so much. He's such a hero. Like we can't believe that David wasn't real. David wasn't real. Never existed. Maybe Solomon wasn't real either. Well, obviously, if David wasn't real, Solomon couldn't have been real because Solomon is David's son. Like, mm-mm. These are wonderful stories. It's mythology, just like Greek mythology. Now let's talk about the Egyptians. Because there's an idea floating around that the Ten Commandments are derived from the 42 laws of Ma'at. Now, before we talk about that, let me help you remember something. Let us all remember something. I'm helping myself to remember, and let's all remember this. Modern academics spurn anything from the motherland. They look upon it with dispersion, like disparagement. Anything from Africa. Mm-mm. Why? Because they're following their predecessors. Their predecessors, who in the 1800s were going around, Europeans going around colonizing and whatnot, and they called the Africans uh, heathens, mongrels, barbarians. We know what the colonizers did. Whenever they met groups of people that were very different from themselves, they had a lot of names for them. And so they felt like there could be nothing of high intelligence that could come out of Africa. There's still remnants of this still in modern day scholars, academics, and religion. So here's one of the really shocking things about it. They put Egypt in the Middle East. Now, let me ask you a question. My daughter came home from school one day and we were talking about, geography and whatnot. And guess what my daughter said to me? We got on the subject of geography and we were talking about Egypt. And I was telling them some things about ancient Egypt, as I often teach my children about it. She said, "Oh, yes, something came up that Egypt was in the Middle East." And I said, what did you just say? She said, "Oh, Egypt is in the Middle East." Run that by me one more again. Egypt is in the Middle East. Girl, stop it. Get that map. You don't know Egypt. Is that what they told you in school? Yes, Egypt is in the Middle East. That's what they told them in school. That Egypt was in the Middle East. I could not believe it. And of course, in school, they don't say when you go to higher education learning, they don't say when you're talking about Egypt, African studies. They say Near Eastern studies. They don't even call it African. And I'm not saying this because I'm a woman of African descent. I'm saying this because we have to understand what we're working with. We're working with scholars who do not even think about Africa. They don't think that Africa, it's not even on their radar because they don't even think that something of higher intelligence can come from Africa. They don't see the Egyptians as African people, as Nubian people. It has already been proven by genetics and by geography, anthropology, that Egyptian people, the original Egyptian people that are from Kemet, Egyptian people and Nubian people came from the same group, same DNA of sub-Saharan Africa. They are people who all right there developed right there in Africa. They're not from Asia and came over. The reason you go to Egypt now and you see all the Middle Eastern people is because the Arabs came and invaded. So when you look at Egypt now and you see that all the Arabs are there, that wasn't what Egypt looked like back in the day. And people they don't get this. They're missing a huge part about Egypt. It's just missing, just like a big blank hole. And they have disassociated Egypt from Africa. Newsflash, Egypt is African. The original people from Egypt, Kemet, were Black African people. It's so shocking. I mean, this should be common sense, yet the story became so twisted And so the people so belittled, disparaged, that it's not possible that Black people could have done any of these advanced things. That's what they told them in school. That Egypt is in the Middle East. Wow. See, so this is what we're dealing with. And when I say colonizers, remember, colonizer is not a color. We still have colonizers, and we have colonizers of all colors all over this planet. Colonizer is not a color, it's a consciousness. It is a consciousness. Okay? So let's go back on screen share and let's consider one other aspect of this as well that is very important to understand. So, and what I'm about to tell you, you'll see in a moment why I'm saying what I'm saying. Because they even changed the map. They changed geography to make Egypt not be in Africa. And it's clearly Africa when you look on the map, right? This is all ideology. This is just an ideology. The scholars laud the Greeks and the Romans. They laud the Greeks and the Romans. The Greeks are like the highest pinnacles ever, yet the Greeks told them that they got their wisdom and learning from Egypt. That's what they told them. So when you look at modern day scholarship, you won't be able to listen to a scholar in the Western world. Now, African scholars, Asian scholars are different. I'm talking about scholars in the Western world because I'm a global gal. I'm a global citizen. I travel the whole world. When you look at scholars in the Western world, you won't be able to get 5 sentences out of them before they go to something Greek. Every book, everything they write, everything they say, they cannot say a good 5 to 10 sentences without going back in the Greek and mentioning the classics or mentioning the Greeks. The Greeks are their gods. When you listen to Western scholars, they lauded the Greeks as like the be all end all. Okay. So understand what you're dealing with regard to that. And then when you look at Bible scholars, they don't look to Africa for anything. I've never heard a Bible scholar say anything about Africa, Kemet, other than brief references to Egypt as it relates to the Bible. I have never heard a Bible scholar who had an excellent grasp of Africa, any parts of Africa, other than just, Alexandria, Library of Alexandria at the very tip of Egypt, the Ptolemies, they know that. And they know a little of Egyptian that they were dynasty and practices that they were taught in regards to their main thing. Beyond that, the whole continent just it's just black. It's just black. Like that needs to change. It's just black. What? Okay, so we have to remember that we're still dealing with colonizer religions and educational systems because the colonizers set up these educational systems. And so you have to understand that they're not going to tell you about Africa. They're not going to tell you that any of their stuff originated in Africa, even though you know it did. And they're not going to point it out. And if you do point it out, they're going to deny it vehemently because they already labeled Africa as the dark continent, full of just barbarians down there, just people we need to go and kill and enslave. Okay? This is the consciousness. I would like us to take a more holistic and nuanced view of possible African origins of parts of the Bible, as well as African heroes, as well as the original Egyptians arising from Nubia, and the Egyptians and the Nubians are deriving from the same group of people that are all African people. So here's where I want to talk to you about the 42 laws of Ma'at. Because many people say, oh, the 10 commandments are just the 42 laws of Ma'at. So before I show you and we look at the 42 laws of Ma'at, this is what I want to say about this. I'm going to come off screen share for a second. And I want to say something about the 42 laws of Ma'at. It's not as simple as saying, oh, the Ten Commandments are from the 42 laws of my heart. And it's also not as simple as saying, the Ten Commandments have nothing to do with the 42 laws of my heart. Like both of those are so elementary and non nuanced that we need to throw both of those out. Like the Ten Commandments are definitely ripped off from the 42 laws of Ma'at. And Christians, like the New Age people and African and the Hebrew Israelite people and all the people that are rah rah, go Africa, love you. Oh, the Ten Commandments are just ripped off the 42 laws of Ma'at. This one, and all the way at the other end of the spectrum, Ten Commandments, Christians, Ten Commandments have nothing to do with the 42 laws of Ma'at. I want to throw out both of those because I think both of them are ridiculous. Here's what I would like to bring to the conversation. I would like for this conversation to be more nuanced. Did different peoples know about other people's theologies, worldview? Yes. Was there sharing back and forth? Yes. Did Egypt rule Canaan from which the Israelites emerged for many years? Yes. Would the Canaanites, which are the original Israelites were originally Canaanites. I know that's crazy, right? Would those Canaanites have known about Egypt, Egypt's mythology, Egypt's gods, Egypt's beliefs? Of course. Egypt ruled Canaan for years. Would some of these stories have circulated, and would some of these ideas have circulated among people about right ways to govern larger and larger groups of people? Like, it's probably not a good idea to murder people. It's probably not a good idea to run around lying and stealing. It's probably not a good idea to be disrespectful to your parents who brought you here. It's probably not a good idea. Do we think that these different people started to uh, work out appropriate ways of governance so that they did not have massive craziness in their societies, and that some of the things were workable? If you hear something from your neighbor that sounds good, I'll add that to my mix. We do that now, syncretization, going back and forth, right? We syncretize. We hear something good from this thing, we work it into our thing. So I don't say that the Ten Commandments, they just went and ripped off 42 laws of Ma'at and just made the Ten Commandments and just whole cloth did it like that. I don't think that. And I also don't think, oh, the Ten Commandments have nothing to do with the 42 laws of Ma'at. I'm a Christian. I have to say that. I think that's ridiculous too. So we've got to be more nuanced and more holistic in our thinking. We've got to study history. What peoples were near what people were living under what people at what times. And we've got to study these things so that we can come to our own conclusions. Here's my take on it, that the Ten Commandments were absolutely heavily influenced by the 42 laws of Ma'at. Now, if they sat down with the 42 laws of Ma'at and wrote down the Ten Commandments from the 42 laws of Ma'at, probably not. Yet, did they have no knowledge of the 42 laws of Ma'at at all? Probably not, right? So let me talk to you about Ma'at. Ma'at was not some run of the mill goddess in Egypt. Ma'at is a principle that this goddess stands for, a universal principle, principles of truth, harmony, cosmic order, rightness, upstandingness, being harmonious, right living. These are the principles that Ma'at stands for. We've got to understand Ma'at. If you understand Ma'at, you will understand the laws. And if you are living Ma'at, which to me is very important to live Ma'at, not because I believe in a goddess that lived thousands of years ago, because the principles resonate with my soul. I like harmony, order, truth, justice. When you see the scales on the courthouse, those are the scales of Ma'at from ancient Egypt. So we believe in harmony, truth, order, justice, living upright, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, taking the high road. All of that is Ma'at. So you don't think that the Israelites living under the Canaanites, living under Egyptian rule for a very long time, you don't think they would have known anything about Ma'at when Ma'at was like one of the, she was right up there with Isis and Osiris and Tahuti, also known as Jehudi, also known as Thoth. Thoth. We call him Thoth, right? Also known as. We know about all of these gods. So you don't think the Canaanites knew about these gods and the early Bible writers knew about Ma'at? Of course they knew about Ma'at. Of course they did. Because Ma'at predates, and the 42 laws of Ma'at predate the Hebrew Bible by centuries. By centuries. So it would have already been circulating. And when we read history and we look at that part of the world, we understand things were syncretized. People passed ideas back and forth. People intermarried. People interwove ideas. There was evolution. There was progression, just like we do now. So that's my odd. That's why I think the Ten Commandments absolutely were absolutely heavily influenced by Ma'at. I also think the Ten Commandments were heavily influenced by the laws of Hammurabi. Hammurabi, Hammurabi, the stele where they found all these laws inscribed on that stele, the laws of Hammurabi. They think that that was like the oldest law code written, and some of our laws come from Hammurabi. So, or Hammurabi, or however you want to say it. So why would we think that some of our laws don't come from, why would we think that the Bible didn't pick up anything from Egypt? Why would we think the Bible didn't pick up anything from Mesopotamia when we know the Bible picked up a lot from Mesopotamia? When we know the Bible picked up from Egypt? It's all swirling together. They're in a melting pot. It's like saying I live in I grew up in Harlem, USA. I spent almost the first 30 years of my life. I left New York around 28, 29, 30, somewhere around there, because I used to come back and forth a lot. So really moved away probably like 30, right? When I lived in New York and I was growing up in New York, I knew where the Cuban spots were. And when I went to a Cuban spot and I asked for the Cubano or the Cubana, the Cuban brothers and sisters that were in there, I want a sandwich, I want a Cuban sandwich. I know what the sandwich is. I've never been to Cuba. We were together in the hood. We were in a melting pot. So I knew what a Cuban sandwich was. Not because I had been to Cuba, but because right around the corner from us was the Cuban, and they would put the ham and cheese and all that on the bread and mash it in the thing. And we knew what a Cuban sandwich was. And then we would go down to the Greek place and we knew what a Slovaki was. We knew what a gyro was. How do we know that? And we ate gyros. How do we know that? We did knew that because we were in a melting pot with other people that ate gyros. We knew what latkes were. We knew what bagels and lox were. Why? Because the Jewish people, we were mixing with them and we would get bagels and cream cheese. I never really ate bagels and lox. It just wasn't my thing. Like we were all mixed together, so we knew about each other. So why do we think that thousands of years ago people wouldn't have known anything about each other? No, 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 no. We don't want to know anything about you. We're not gonna. These people were not in a silo. No people are in a silo. And this is what we've got to understand about ancient civilizations. None of them were in a silo. Nations came, nations went. This nation interacted with that one. This one took these slaves, and then they lived under their rule for hundreds of years. So, of course, they're going to hear their stories. If you adopted a kid from, let's say, Sudan, I don't know, and let's say that you were a white family in Minneapolis, and you wanted to do some wonderful things and you wanted to go and adopt kids from another place where they might not get adopted, you were doing international adoption, and you adopted two kids from the Sudan and you brought them over and now they're in the United States. These kids from Sudan will probably now be exposed to Disney. Let's say they're 3 or 5. They're probably somehow going to be exposed to Disney because Disney is ubiquitous. It's very hard to not have your kids be exposed to Disney in the United States. So they'll probably learn a Disney story here and there. They would have never learned those stories if they were in Sudan. So when people move, possibly not, right? When people move, you can imagine when they would move the Israelites, or when the Canaanites were, when they had the destruction of the temple, and they moved some of the Israelites up to Babylon, like the priests and the very well-to-do people and the scribes and whatnot, the higher ups, they moved them to Babylon. They would have learned all about the Babylonian stories, and the Babylonian stories are the Akkadian stories, redux, and the Akkadian stories are redux of the Assyrian stories. And the Assyrian stories are redux of the Sumerian stories. And the Sumerian stories are Anunnaki stories. So that's how they got into the Bible. So to me, none of this is weird. It's normal. It's how normal human beings conduct themselves with each other. Right? Now, let's talk the 42 laws of Ma'at. That's what we're going to end on. We're going to end on these 42 laws of Ma'at because these laws, they are, well, first, before I read them to you, what is the context within which these 42 confessions would have been made? They're called negative confessions. In other words, I have not killed, I have not done this, I have not stolen, I have not. Why are they in that tense? Why are they spoken that way? Because originally, the 42 laws of Ma'at had nothing to do with um, commandments that somebody wrote in a book. These were part of spells that went with the ritual that when a person died, like a pharaoh died, they were now going to stand before Osiris, and their heart was going to be weighed on the scales. And on one side of the scale was the feather of Maat. Whenever you see the Egyptian gods, the way you can know it's Maat, because she always has a white feather on her head, whereas Isis always usually has a crown on her head. So when you come with us to Egypt next year in 2026, which you will, when you come with us to Egypt, you are going to see. And so when you read the inscriptions on the walls, every spiritual seeker has to go to Egypt. So I don't know why you're trying to resist. You might as well come with us with a group of people that you absolutely love and have a ton of fun with and really learn a lot at the same time. If you are a spiritual seeker, you have to go to Egypt. It's non-negotiable. You have to go. When you look on the hieroglyphics, you will be able to determine and know which gods and goddesses you're looking at, and you'll be able to read the stories because Maya has the white ostrich feather on her head. And Isis will have a crown on her head, signifying that she is the owner or the keeper of the crown for all the pharaohs and pharaohs. And there was one who was a woman, pharaoh, Queen Hatshepsut, and we go to her temple as well, which is spectacular. So you start to understand what you're looking at when you're looking at the hieroglyphics, and you can read them for yourself, and people don't have to tell you, right? Well, I want to show you something so funny. Porn, nothing new under the sun. Nothing new about porn. Do you want to see some Egyptian porn? This is where everybody's going to turn to this part of the video because I'll show you some Egyptian porn right now. I took a picture of it myself when I was in Cairo, last time I was in Cairo. Now, before we go to the mortuary stuff, let me pull up the Egyptian porn. Yeah, I took a picture of it for you because I thought you might get a kick out of it. I have never shown it before. You'll be the first to see it. Hold on. Let me see if it's in this set of pictures or if it's in my other set of pictures. I showed you I didn't show you the locks. The wig that's something like 2,000 year old locks. Okay. 2 or 3,000 year old locks. Let me see if I can get you this picture of the porn. You'll love it. I promise you. You will love it. Is it on this one? I've got so many. It's on this. Yep, there it is. Okay, how'd you like to meet this dude? Okay, that, my friends, is Egyptian porn right there. Okay, how would you like to meet this dude? Like he's got big dreams, doesn't he? That is, there you have it. There you have it. Now, I had to take a picture of that. But anyway, let's go to the subject of the 42 laws of Ma'at and how this was part of a ritual for coming forth by day. What is coming forth by day? Coming forth by day is when the pharaohs died and now they were going to go to the afterlife. They have to get over there and they had to have help. So, what, and before you went to the afterlife, you had to first make these negative confessions. And there were 42 judges sitting there. You see this on the hieroglyphics. There were 42 judges sitting there. And you had to make your negative confession to each judge. And if you did not have your heart be lighter than a feather. There was a crocodile creature that was going to just destroy you. You would just go down and you just be destroyed. If you passed the test and you lived Mayat and your heart was lighter than a feather, that means you forgave. You didn't carry all this heaviness around. You were lighthearted. You were joyful. You were not harboring anger, right? All that makes for a heavy heart. Then you could pass on to the afterlife. What did they do to your body? They put your intestines, your stomach, your lungs, and your liver in these four jars, also known as the four sons of Horus. I'm definitely going to teach this class before we go to Egypt so that when you go to Egypt, you know what you're looking at. And these four canopic jars, you can see right in here who was who. So you have a human-headed one, that is Imseti. Do you see that? Imseti is guarding the liver. You have the baboon-headed one, that's Happy. Happy is guarding the lungs. And then you have the jackal-headed one, which is Dua Matef. Dua Mutef. Dua Mutef. That's guarding the stomach. And the falcon-headed one, I always get this mixed up. Kebu Hesnuef. Hope I'm saying that right. That's the falcon-headed one. That's the intestines. So we know that the Egyptians had a very elaborate burial process in which they extracted these organs and they put them in these four canopic jars. And these were inside the tomb. The jars each, and these beings, these four sons of Horus, were watching over these uh, uh, vital organs and keeping them safe in case you need to use them in the afterlife. The other thing that they also had in there were the spells for you to be able to get through, which are the spells that are coming forth by day. It had nothing to do with the Egyptian Book of the Dead. That's what the crazy people named it when they came to it, because they saw it in the mortuary, they saw it in funerary texts, and they saw it in tombs. So they called it Book of the Dead. It is not the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It is the spells of coming forth by day. That's what they call it. That's what the Egyptians called it, right? Now, one other thing I want to show you in here from all my pictures, and there you see it again. You see sets, different sets. These are from different tombs of the mortuary canopic jars, the four jars where they put your um, important organs, called the Four Sons of Horus. Now, not throughout all of Egyptian history did they have a falcon head and a baboon head and at one point during Egyptian history they all had human heads. And here now over time it changed, and there's actually a goddess who rules each of these four keepers, guardians of the organs. There's a goddess that helps each one of these four sons of Horus to keep those organs safe and you in good stead. Now, there's one other thing that I want to show you besides these, and that is this picture right here. So, this picture is from a these are tomb goods, all of these things taken out of the tombs. And I want to show you the upshaptis, upshaktis or shaktis. These are little miniature workers that would be put inside the tomb so that when the person got into the afterlife, if there was something, some work that had to be done, they would enliven the workers to do the work for them. They had to dig a ditch to go somewhere. They had to, because your chariot was in there, all your stuff was in the funeral, the whole funerary cavern, you could call it. Your chariot was in there, but what if your chariot got stuck in the mud? You need some workers to enliven them, activate them, wake them up, and get this chariot moving out of the mud, or clear the way for the horse to go, or whatever you needed done in the afterlife so that you could move on to your beautiful place and live forever, right? In the sea of reeds. So this is so complex, and it changed over time. This Egyptian funeral rites and the Egyptian care of the Bible, of the body after the person passed, and the salting of the body, and the 7 days that they would have the body salted, and then extracting the brain through the nose, and all these things. These are super complex. And part of this whole, I'm giving you the context of the 42 laws of Ma'at. It's a funerary context. The context was not like we go to church on Sunday to some temple and we talk about the 42 laws of Ma'at. That's not the context of the 42 laws of Ma'at. Yay! I love you too. I love you too. I love you too. It's so good to learn, isn't it? It is so good to learn. Oh my goodness. I bring the receipts every time because, family, I've been there. I've been to Egypt and I'm going again. And you're coming with me. It's at ValerieLove.com. Go there and look and see. ValerieLove.com global events. Okay. We have a class. I mean, not a class. We have a travel Zoom, free travel Zoom. Anyone can join us on this travel Zoom. It's coming up on September 7th. Hold on. Let me get you the link for it. It's coming up on September 7th, and you can be on this travel Zoom with us. So if you go to ValerieLove.com, so I want you to come to Bali with us. I want you to come with us to Egypt. Let's see. Here is the travel Zoom right here. Reserve your space. You click on that and just pop your name and email address in there. We're going to send you the invite. It's a travel Zoom, free of charge, no charge whatsoever, so that you can find out about Egypt. Payment plans are there. We do travel specials, all of that good stuff. Okay. Okay. All of that good stuff. So I want to also give you this link. This is my affiliate link. And this just gives you, I have the 42 Laws of Ma'at at home. And I would recommend also that you get the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So I'm going to drop it in the chat for you right here. So I already dropped in the chat, ValerieLove.com. I want you to go there. And I'm also going to drop in the chat the book, because we are learning, right, family? Oh my goodness. We are learning. Okay. Oh, that's a paid link. Let me put hashtag paid link. As an Amazon influencer, I receive compensation when you should you choose to use my link to buy anything from Amazon. Thank you very, very, very much. I so love you. Now we're going to look at the laws of Ma'at after I have given that background of the 42 laws of Ma'at and how they're used. It is so important for us to put things in their proper context. Here are the 42 laws of Ma'at, and you tell me if you see any correlation. Was there any syncretizing? Was there any exchange, cross pollination between the Egyptians and the Ten Commandments? I have not committed sin. I have not committed robbery with violence. I have not stolen. I have not slain men or women. I have not stolen food. I have not swindled offerings. I have not stolen from God, goddess. I have not told lies. I have not carried away food. I have not cursed. I have not closed my ears to truth. Mm, mm, mm. Come on, my aunt. That's the one right there. I have not committed adultery. I have not made anyone cry. This is causing unnecessary emotional distress to others. It's a violation of compassion and kindness, cooking up all this drama, causing people to cry all around the place. I have not felt sorrow without reason. We want to have emotional self regulation. I have not assaulted anyone. I'm not deceitful. I have not stolen anyone's land. I have not been an eavesdropper. I have not falsely accused anyone. I have not been angry without reason, just walking around anger. That's making your heart heavy. I have not seduced anyone's wife. They need to put husband too. I have not polluted myself. I have not terrorized anyone. I have not disobeyed the law. I have not been exclusively angry, holding on to anger with no justification. I have not cursed God, goddess. I have not behaved with violence. I have not caused disruption of peace. I have not acted hastily or without thought. I have not overstepped my boundaries of concern. I have not exaggerated my words when speaking. I have not worked evil. I have not used evil thoughts, words, or deeds. I have not polluted the water. That was very important back then, the water source. I have not spoken angrily or arrogantly. I have not cursed anyone in thought, word, or deeds. More than the psalmist can say, because the psalmist in the Bible was cursing people left and right. That's another story for another day. I have not placed myself on a pedestal. I have not stolen that which belongs to God, goddess. I have not taken food from a child. I have not acted with insolence. I have not destroyed property belonging to God, goddess. I have not offended the gods. And there you have the 42 laws of Ma'at. There you have it. There you have it. Yes? The Bible got their info from this, right? You get to decide. What do you say? Was there cross pollination? Was there some borrowing? Was there some? I like that idea. We're going to add it to our 10 Commandments. You really get to look at these things and be with them and understand what they meant in their context. Sometimes we look at things anachronistically. We are not looking at things in their proper context. We have got to look at the 42 laws of Ma'at in the proper context. Neutrino waves, you are so freaking amazing because that's so amazing. I love Ma'at. I love Ma'at. I love Ma'at so much that in our mystery school, in the initiation program, the priestess, the keeper of, because Ma'at is even beyond being a priestess, she is cosmic order itself. The actual patron of our initiation process is Ma'at. It is the Ma'at Temple of Love, Light, and Truth. That is what our initiates are initiated into. And so all of our initiates, our high priests and high priestesses who have gone through the program, they have Ma'at. They're living Ma'at the best we can. We're not perfect. We're living Ma'at the best we can. That means being truthful, living upright, living harmoniously with all people, not making drama. We don't need to make drama. Yes? All right, Nimrod, let's see what you have to say. If the 10 Commandments were not stolen from the laws of Ma'at, Moses was not raised in Pharaoh's house and survived while he was an unaliving all firstborn. Indeed, indeed. I just love ancient mysteries. And I so love that you all are loving this podcast. Share it, share it, share it. If you are not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Smash that little button. It's a button. Just smash it. Just tap that button right now. You're watching this because a lot of y'all watching are not subscribed. Just tap that little button right now and share it with your people. Share it with your people who are coming out of Christianity. Share it with your people who are seeking knowledge, deeper secrets. Share it with your people that love Bobby Hemmett, that love Dr. Malachi Z. York. A lot of people always tell me about that Dr. Malachi York, and I love me some Bobby Hemmett, okay? So a lot of people are always talking to me about that. Of course, Forbidden Knowledge and Billy Carson and many of us who are teaching and sharing from different perspectives. We all have different perspectives on the ancient mysteries, on the occult teachings. We know that we are here to free humanity. That's what we know. And that's what I'm on. Because once I get free, once you are free, you feel an imperative and inspiration. You feel compelled to free others. Like the Black Moses didn't just leave and say, I'm never going back. She came back several times, according to the story, right? And freed more and more people. When you get free, you feel a an inspiration to support others in their freedom. I freaking love you, and I will see you next Wednesday right here on The Real Goddess, not in the Bible. Mwah! Peace. Casey out.